You're listening to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. I'm Allison Boyle, aka She Dreams of Alpine, and this is the show that's dedicated to all the adventurous spirits out there who have either been transformed by the outdoors or are interested in what it looks like to step into a new, adventurous, and courageous kind of identity in their life. It doesn't matter what your background is in the outdoors, what age you're starting at, or where you grew up. If you're curious about the outdoors and using adventure as a way to reinvent yourself, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing all kinds of personal adventure stories, lessons I've learned from the mountains, teaching what I know about the outdoors and leadership, and interviewing some amazing adventurous women all along the way. I've been coaching women on becoming safe, confident, and self-sufficient backpackers and leaders of their own adventurous lives since 2018, and I know exactly what big fears and self-doubts can pop up along the way. I have so much to share with you, so let's dive in. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. You are listening to episode 28. Now, I'm actually not going to be the main speaker of this episode. I have asked my team member, Kellie, if she would step in with her expertise and answer a question that we've gotten inside of our Backpacking Badass program recently. Should you visit a parks this year? And she is going to give us a former park manager's take on this topic and some sort of behind the scenes thoughts. So we thought this would be really interesting to share with our podcast audience. And yeah, I'm going to officially kick it off to her and let her do this episode and give you all the information that you need to kind of make your most informed decision on this topic. Hope you enjoy.
Hey y'all, Kellie from Team Alpine here, and I'm so stoked to be back with y'all on the Adventurous Reinvention podcast. Allison and I recorded episode 9 together when we talked about some hot topics that were coming up in our Backpacking Badass community, because I'm the community and social media manager here at She Dreams of Alpine, so I interact a lot with our students and social media audiences on a daily basis. Which means I get to see some of the top questions that come up in our Backpacking Badass community and the outdoorsy community at large. So what we're talking about today is actually something that came up in our Backpacking Badass community on a coaching call I did. I knew this was something that many hikers and backpackers, climbers, and other outdoor enthusiasts were probably concerned about too. Our student said, "I'm having a hard time finding a solid take on if A, we should still visit to demonstrate support and interest in parks, or B, if it's more responsible to avoid visiting to relieve the pressure on remaining park staff and resources." So for some context, before I joined the team at She Dreams of Alpine, I was a field ecologist out of college, and then I became a manager for municipal parks departments, aka city parks. And I managed around 700 acres of public lands, hundreds of seasonal staff and volunteers, and all the operations and programs within several parks in those 700 acres. So I was working as a public lands manager in 2020 during the recreation boom and the beginning of the COVID pandemic. And so it was a time where the city was put into a spending and hiring freeze, and we had to cut all of our volunteers for safety reasons. And if you don't know, parks departments at every level depend pretty heavily on volunteers. So as you can imagine, it made 2020 a really heavy year for parks employees. So I want to share what I learned from that and how you can support public lands when times feel uncertain and kind of scary. So in today's episode, I'm going to cover what it's like being a public servant. We'll talk about how you can support public lands. We'll also talk about what to expect as far as visiting national parks and forests. And then we're going to finish the episode with why being self-sufficient is going to be so important. And I'm hoping that this episode gives you some hope. So let's dig into it. I have served on habitat restoration teams in national parks. I've served on wildlife research teams partnered with the U.S. Geological Survey. I've trained with wildland firefighters that were in programs that trained military veterans to become wildland firefighters. And I've served as a manager and a steward for public lands and services. I think it's really important to mention with everything going on that the pathway to full-time employment in outdoor jobs like park rangers, field scientists, and land managers often means working years in honestly grueling seasonal or temporary positions. And these are oftentimes very low paying and dangerous. Like, there was a point I was working in the middle of the Mojave Desert doing desert tortoise research, getting paid $75 a week. And that was like, there were 6 of us on that job. And I actually laugh when people say I shouldn't solo hike as a woman, because they've clearly never talked to a field biologist or an ecologist. Like, literally, I was often dropped in the middle of nowhere, but never provided things like navigation or wildlife safety trainings. So by default, many of these employees must already possess these specialized skills to safely do these jobs, even though they are marketed as seasonal or entry-level positions. Like, they're not just fun working outside jobs that they do get marketed as, actually. They are really, really demanding high-stress jobs with low resources. So it's also very demanding of personal time, especially for positions that live on site, like rangers or maintenance people or trail crews that might be actually even camping for weeks or months at a time. So they are demanding jobs. They are not the super fun summertime jobs that we often are told that they are. And with years of super stagnant funding, long before these illegal firings of 2025, the workload has been piling up on positions that haven't been dissolved. So it's been a common practice in public land agencies that when someone leaves a position, the job gets eliminated and the responsibilities just get divvied up among the other employees, especially the salaried ones. And that's just because for a lot of these budgets, they can't keep up with either rising costs of labor or having as many staff as they did before. So when somebody retires or leaves, they will just dissolve that position. It'll be gone entirely. So full-time positions feel a little bit harder to come by in the outdoor industry. I've personally seen it happen. My colleagues in the industry across the United States have seen it happen. The old-timers with retirement countdown clocks will even warn the newcomers of this. So this is all to say that the federal employees that were illegally fired were falsely accused of being incompetent or simply new hires. That just couldn't be further from the truth. They were likely extremely dedicated workers that have been taking up grueling and often thankless jobs for many years before they ever landed what they considered to be their dream jobs. So I also want to say thank you to everyone this year that took action in defense of public lands and federal employees, because it worked. And as of April, the Department of Interior ordered to reinstate the 1,000 illegally fired employees. And your public servants, with their boots on the ground, they want you to enjoy these wild spaces that they work so hard to protect and they work for you to have access to. Don't forget to thank your local trail crews when you see them. It's not just because we love and value our wild spaces, it's because we believe everyone deserves to enjoy them and benefits from them. So with the federal employees and outdoor industry workers showing up consistently to support hikers and outdoor enthusiasts, how can you show up in support of federal employees, and how can you support public lands? So, first, I want to point out that the National Park Service, specifically in the United States, is ranked the most favorable U.S. department. And in 2024, it set a new record of 331.8 million visitors to just national parks. That stat doesn't account for all the ecotourism at national forests, at Bureau of Land Management lands, at USGS sites. And so that is a huge economy is in outdoor recreation, and those towns around those places that people recreate as well benefit from that ecotourism. And yet, even though it's most favorable and great for the economy, and people travel from around the world to visit these wild spaces, the National Park Service is near the bottom of funding and often forced to run like businesses to fill the gap. That's why we get those really high gate fees at some of the more popular parks, or that's why they have to take permitting fees, even if it's not a trail where permitting is necessary to reduce impact. So how can you help? One, if you're in the US, calling your representatives is a great way to be a voice for the causes and the resources you believe in. We're seeing that happen in real time. So getting the illegal firings reversed was amazing. So let's carry the momentum and keep fighting in defense of public lands. To be honest, they've needed it for a long time. And so let's just use this energy and ride that wave and aim all that pent-up energy that you might have to this type of action. If you visit She Dreams of Alpine on Instagram or Facebook and comment REP, R-E-P, on any of our posts, we'll automatically send you a link to find your representatives and their phone numbers. Calling is used more than emails to gauge enthusiasm of constituents. If you feel nervous about calling, if calling stresses you out, I want to reassure you, you won't actually be talking to your representative. That's very rare. It'll probably be a voicemail a lot of the times or an intern. So be brave, borrow your bravery from the trail, and you got this. Don't forget to include all public lands, not just national parks, while they are incredible and amazing. And yes, let's defend the national parks. Let's step it up and defend all the public land. So this includes land managed by other Department of Interior agencies. The National Park is part of the Department of Interior. And so other sister agencies are Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Geological Service, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and U.S. Department of Agriculture. Believe it or not, Department of Agriculture has conservation programs. And I can't remember if Indian Affairs is an agency that's falls under the Department of Interior or not. But even if you're not in the U.S., feel free to raise concerns about what's happening in the U.S. to your local politicians, because nature conservation is all of our business. So the second thing you can do, number 2, to support your public lands, buy park passes. You can actually buy these at gifts. If you go onto their website, you can buy I think it's called America the Beautiful Pass, which is a park pass to get you into any of the parks. And honestly, it'll pay for it. I think they're usually around $80, and they will pay for themselves in just a couple of visits. Buy them for yourself, buy them as gifts for people. You're going to love this one. Unapologetically go crazy in the gift shops. Let yourself have whatever you want in the gift shop. Make donations. Find ways that are within your means to monetarily support parks and the local communities that depend on those ecotourism, like we mentioned a little bit earlier. Park passes are a great option to both monetarily support the parks and provide usage data, which the NPS has used in the past to make decisions or investment decisions, capital improvement decisions, which is like maintenance stuff. So that is a great point that our student had brought up about do you need to show up to show that you're still using the parks? And I would argue, yeah, that data is still going to be important, and it's going to be a talking point that people use in these critical times of defending our public lands. Number 3, the third thing that you can do to defend public lands is volunteer. Long before today's issue, our public lands have been operating on shoestring budgets, stagnant budgets, and so they rely heavily on volunteer workforces. I know as a parks manager, I could not have offered nearly the things I offered or had the parks be as beautiful as they were or the trails as safe as they were if it weren't for the volunteers that lent their time, their efforts, their expertise, and their knowledge to all kinds of different areas that we needed them. I want to be clear though, volunteering should not be a replacement for full-time, good-paying jobs. We should continue to raise our voices in support of the job security for these types of fields and for, like, instance, the federal workers. And in the meantime, we can donate our time and our expertise to support our community and protect wild spaces. And whether it's doing trail work or volunteering to lead hikes or programs, your local lands could use your talents and passion. This would also be an amazing way to meet new outdoorsy friends that share your passion for the outdoors and feel motivated to action. So by volunteering in your community, you might end up getting some benefits from it as an adventurer, like some new hiking or adventure friends. The fourth thing that you can do to support your public lands is become a safe, confident, and self-sufficient badass. This one is really going to help the people working in the public lands. You want to become excellent with safety planning. Consider elevating your training. Things like our Backpacking Badass program that teaches you everything you need to know about backpacking, or you could take something like a wilderness first aid or first responder course so you can self-rescue or aid another adventurer. You could even just get a regular first aid if you can't find or it's not in your budget for a wilderness first responder or a wilderness first aid. Take a normal first aid class. Or get your certification in Leave No Trace. It's free on their website. Being a respectful hiker that cares about educating themselves on safety and stewardship practice is a public employee's favorite visitor. More on this later in this episode because I want to talk more in depth about why becoming self-sufficient is going to be crucial. But before I do that, I want to tell you some things that you can expect or not expect this year if you are visiting public lands. So let's get into some of the impacts that visitors are going to be feeling and seeing this year. I say feeling and seeing because some of these impacts will be unseen, the ones that you'll feel but you can't quite pinpoint, and some impacts will be pretty obvious, the ones that you actually see. So, what are the unseen impacts that you may feel even long after you visited? With less resources, land managers will be forced to triage their tasks more than they've ever had to do in the past, which was pretty substantial before. So, science is one of these categories. Between the elimination of key science and research positions, severe travel restrictions, and a spending limit imposed on park staff, critical work is being shelved. So, archaeological surveys of cultural resources, removal of invasive vegetation species, plants that aren't supposed to be there, or animals that aren't supposed to be in that area, and the monitoring of threatened wildlife species. These are just a few of the hundreds of long-term projects impacted. So personally, I was working on some field research with tortoises in the Mojave Desert, and that was in partnership with the U.S. Geological Survey. So things like that may be impacted. School and community outreach are another branch of things that you may not see when you visit a public land, but you might feel the effects of it. Field trips and other Park Service-led community outreach programs, they may be coming to a halt depending on people or the staffing that each individual park has or public land has. So as someone that's done a lot of outreach, I can say with confidence this outreach is essential to enhance access to our public lands and has helped inspire generations of stewards. It also plays a critical role in helping people feel welcome, confident, and represented in outdoor spaces like science, park jobs, and outdoor recreation. Another unseen impact will be tribal consultation and historic preservation. Public land agencies are required by law to engage Indigenous tribes on any project that affects traditional homelands of Indigenous people, which is, let's be clear, the right thing to do. The loss of positions such as regional tribal liaisons has shifted this important work to even fewer already under-supported staff who will struggle to meaningfully engage tribes and other communities. So public lands are more than just wilderness. They also preserve our history and culture, and that's worth defending as well. You might feel the impacts of cancellation of building contracts. It takes a lot to get what is called a capital improvement project done in the parks world. These are usually backlogged, much needed maintenance projects like building upkeep, building storing artifacts, IT equipment, visitor centers, inns, rescue services. All that and more will have to wait even longer or possibly even lose funding for much needed maintenance. And then this will be a big one that you may feel if you get into an emergency. There may be limited rescue services. The search and rescue teams in the United States are already more than 98% volunteers. I think I read at one statistic say it was like over 99% volunteers. So the tiny percentage of staff are the people coordinating the rescues. Even then, a lot of this work outside of the national parks may fall on local police or sheriffs, which may not have any wilderness training. Wildland firefighters will also be impacted. Programs that are a pathway for veterans to become wildland firefighters may lose funding, and then we'll lose out on highly skilled and capable firefighters. And with all that in mind, what are some of the impacts you'll be seeing when you visit the public lands? You can definitely expect longer wait times. This one probably sounds obvious. You've probably been hearing it a lot already. But it's important to mention that there's more than just the front entrance to wait at. All the amenities that require seasonal staff will be impacted. Think things like entry gates, ticket lines, gift shop checkout, boat inspections if at access point put-ins, visitor centers, registering your permits if you have to pick those up, or if it's like registering at the trailhead with a ranger station. Some of these things might even be closed. So your research skills are going to be, and this phrase probably is coming up a lot in 2025, more important than ever. There may be a lot of closures and cancellations that visitors will feel. So parks specifically may be forced to cancel or reduce guided tours, interpretive services, junior ranger programs, campground closures, and more. And so again, really, really important to check those things before you go well ahead of time. And when in doubt, call or email. In my experience, I usually get an answer back pretty quickly. It may be a little bit different now, and I do know that when I was applying for my Isle Royal ferry tickets this year, it was around the time that those illegal firings were coming down the pipeline, and so it did disrupt everything and put that staff about a month behind. And so those things are, you need to consider them, and your trip planning has to be really honed and dialed in this year for those reasons. Being on top of your research skills this year, they're going to be really important because all the public lands are already managed differently, and they're going to have to make some decisions this year and possibly navigate changing political landscapes. So check early and check often for updates throughout your planning stage. Now, everything that I've talked about up to this point is a lot to process, right? It probably feels discouraging, and quite frankly, it might be feeling a little doomsday-esque. But I'm going to leave you with some hope to ponder on. Yes, the delays I mentioned earlier can have a huge impact on your hiking itinerary, especially for backpackers. Yes, funding cuts and spending caps may create a chasm in rescue services. But you're not helpless. You can still get outside this year and be super safe. You can have both those things. Being self-sufficient with your skills and confidently being able to pivot when things don't go to plan are going to make you a super safe and self-sufficient, especially in moments of uncertainty or even fear. Deciding to change your plans could be as simple as what time you get to the trailhead to massive decisions where you feel conflicted, like leaving the trail early on a trip you've been looking forward to for so long. I actually used to feel like a terrible backpacker in my early days when I didn't complete a planned route exactly as I had planned it. I counted those times as failures. But the truth is I was an amazing backpacker because I was skilled at making confident decisions to change the plans when the plans needed changing. I didn't let my ego or hurt feelings or my disappointment about myself or the situation cloud my judgment on making safety calls. Actually, my most dangerous trips have been the ones where I didn't listen to my intuition and I ignored a safety call that I should have made. So strengthening these values brings peace of mind that you can handle anything, so you aren't packing your anxiety when you hit the trail, because our packs can already be heavy enough, and I'm saving as much of my weight as I can for snacks. I don't know about you though. Being confident that you can self-rescue is also a huge boost to your confidence and security. Self-rescue might be learning what to do in the unlikely event that you encounter a potentially dangerous animal. Or it could be making safety plans with an at-home contact to provide you weather updates or watch out for wildfires in your area. Satellite communicators like Garmin InReach and Zoleo are great for this, by the way. Self-rescue is getting really good at creating a safety plan to leave with a contact at home, but then actually explaining it to your safety contacts. I do want to say that writing one out is wonderful, but it's simply not enough. You need to teach your trusted at-home contact how to use it and what it means. Self-rescue might be getting certified in first aid or something like wilderness first aid, or taking it a step further with wilderness first responder training, or maybe even wilderness EMT. None of those classes, at least through NOLS, requires any prerequisites. And actually the EMT one is cool. If you do wilderness EMT, you also get certified in your like normal urban EMT. So you get both certifications. And all of the certifications, if being in the outdoors is your dream job, all of these certifications make you extremely employable, because I think I got like a wilderness advanced first aid in one of my jobs, but that was the extent of it. So get that extra education for yourself for a myriad of reasons. Both, or any of these options, will give you the tools to treat injuries and illness in the wilderness context, which focuses on extended care and using what you have to access to improvising medical and rescue equipment. So highly recommend for any outdoor adventurer. So whatever level you're at in your outdoorsy journey, there's always some deeper level to explore. Whether you're brand new to all of this or you've been doing it a while, ask yourself, what skill can I dive a little deeper into, and what can I hone to make myself safer and more self-sufficient? We can and we should keep learning, always. So thanks so much for listening today and caring about the places we all love to explore. places that connect us through shared awe in ourselves and in the landscapes. If you want to reach out, you can email me, Kellie, at hello@shedreamsofalpine.com. I'd love to hear if anything resonated with you, what you thought, or if you have any follow-up questions. I'll catch you all next time on the Adventurous Reinvention Podcast.
Hey, I wanted to thank you real quick for tuning into the show and listening all the way to the end. If you love this episode and you want deeper support in becoming a safe, confident, and self-sufficient hiker and backpacker, then head over to shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist to learn more about our Backpacking Badass coaching program, where I teach you absolutely everything you need to know to be self-reliant on the trails and stop waiting around on others for the adventure invite. So I'd love to help you more in your journey of stepping into your adventurous identity, and that program is the absolute best place for us to start working together. So again, that's shedreamsofalpine.com/waitlist, and you can learn all about it there. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you get to spend some time outside this week, and I'll be back very soon with a brand new episode. Bye.